All right, we are live. Dr. Jason Wersland, welcome back to the Future of Fitness.
Thanks. Good to see you.
Yeah, you as well. I want to kind of kick off this interview. First of all, I haven't had you on the show since January of 2022, so it's been well over a year and a half. But I got to meet you in person, IRL, as the kids say nowadays.
Yeah, right.
I think it was IDEA. And thanks to Tony and the guys from NASM on making sure that we got paired up. But it was cool for me and funny. It was a funny story because you brought me back and it was by the TRX room. There was,
Uh-huh.
people were just coming off a session and you had this tent set up with all this, all of your cool new, Therabody gear.
Yeah.
And these two women come up and, one was like, gosh, I got this elbow issue and, can you help me with that? And I was like, these people don't know that they're talking to the founder of Theragun. And you didn't bat an eye. Like you just took in stride. You're like, oh yeah, of course. Like, what's the problem? Like, tell me
Yeah.
more. And you just went right into like practitioner mode and you generally want to help these people. And I thought that was just a really interesting anecdote into like the type of guy that you are. A lot of people who would be founders and CEOs be like too busy for that. Maybe, hey, let me hand you off to somebody else. Thanks for your interest, but you just got right in. And then I kind of lost the conversation, so I was kind of bummed. But I was like, anyway, I'll circle back. So it was a good thing. I think it was a good highlight of how you interact with the industry. So kudos on that, man.
Thanks.
So it has been a year and a half. What maybe give us a little bit of an update, Doctor. What's been going on in your life over the last 19 months?
Well, I think the first part of it was, sort of adjusting to the same thing that the rest of the world was, the economy, um, just the economic environment was different. And then, we dove into product development, and we usually have a 12 to 18 month cycle. So would we say, you said January of 22, is that what you said?
Yep.
So, wow. So last year we launched 12 new products in September, and we did them all at the same time. We launched cupping, goggles, recovery therm, these like things for your back and your knee. And we just threw it out there because there was such a need for it. It felt like, especially in the spaces where I'm at with teams and physios and things like that. So it's always a whirlwind. And, here we are shooting this today on the end of September. And I'm right in the middle of launching new products again for this year. So, Christmas last year was good for us, I think, in general as a company. And then coming into 23 was really positioning ourselves for a really big growth in 24 and 25. The World Cup's coming, the Olympics coming to LA. There's a lot of energy being sort of driven into this city right now as it prepares for that. So, we kind of went up and down in numbers with like employees. We had some layoffs just because the economy was tough, and we had to sort of streamline, which unfortunately I hate, because we lose good people. But I'm thinking like positively, you look at it and it makes you better. You have to really analyze roles and focus, and messaging, and how people perceive who we are, both internally with our own employees and externally, how people recognize our brand. So I think it's really taught us a lot. We've brought on some new people. We have a new CEO as of January of 23. We have a new CFO shortly after that. Ben, who was the CEO before, slid over to become the chief strategy officer. So he's helping with strategy. And we've launched a new beauty line. If anyone's paying attention, we have a mask that we launched that now supports TheraFace Pro, the little Theragun for your face. There was a big opportunity there. That was one of our learnings last year. It was like, wait a minute, there's no one's really doing these things in this wellness beauty space. And then, if you think about what we were in 2018, 19, 20, almost, we were one product company. and to grow from one product now to 28 different SKUs, and that doesn't include the attachments and all the different things that come on the different SKUs. You have to learn. We had to learn really how to communicate that to the public, and recognizing as the leaders in this space that it's our responsibility to put context around all of these products. Suddenly now we got like 25 products. You go to one of our retail locations, whether it's in Vegas or wherever they are, we've got 20 of them, 23 of them around the US. You go in there, it's just a sea of products. And so we recognized color coding them and putting them together in categories was really important. So I think when you say, what have you been spending your time on? Learning, number one. And that's basically from listening to consumers. One of the things I've sort of prided myself on over the years as we've grown is really paying attention to what's going on in different communities, in the physical therapy world, in the sporting world, in the athletes world, in the consumer world. And now the number of things you have to get insights on consumers buying and how they perceive different brands. And I mean, it's crazy now. So we've been able to apply a lot of that. And now when you look at our brand, I'm hoping our goal is that you see these three buckets. You see wellness, performance, and beauty. And that you recognize that, we all fit in the wellness bucket, no matter where you are or what you're doing. But there's some that are a little bit more on the performance side. So that would be, athletes, and maybe you and I, we're getting ready for a race or something, go skiing, just that's the performance side of things. And they're a little bit heavier duty. The protocols are a little bit more involved. The app connection is necessary to get the right protocols. And then the beauty side, we're just barely scratching the surface. I had someone ask me the other day, like, why did you get into beauty? And we kind of accidentally got into beauty with the TheraFace Pro. Like, we didn't know that was the case. And we were working with DeAndre Hopkins and, a bunch of different athletes who loved the product. So we weren't looking at it as a beauty product. We were calling it facial health. But it's, the scale tips and it just falls into beauty really quickly just because of top heavy the product. And I don't mean that, no pun intended. So now suddenly we're in this beauty space, and it's like, now what do we do here? So we start looking around and we realize, wow, there's a lot of need for the technologies that we have, that we're working on, that we're innovating with. So that's kind of what's happened. I know it's a long answer, but now the company, if you look at Therabody, we have several different brands, several different products. We have retail locations, and then we have our reset centers, which is recovery centers. We have 6 of those across the states. We're opening a new one in New York. By the time you launch this podcast, it will be open. It's in Manhattan West. It's amazing. It's going to be our flagship reset. So it's going to have biggest, best of everything. So we have those things, and then we have our brand, ourself, that we've now segmented into categories: wellness, beauty, and performance. So, I spend most of my time educating. You mentioned the story about the Idea World and seeing those women come in. I love that. I don't want them to know who I am. That's not what it's about. It's really about listening to them. I learned so much from injuries and issues and what people are looking for, and then watching them use them. How do they use them? Does it make sense? Is it intuitive? Are they scared? Are they asking me questions? So you understand this, I'm sure, and probably many things in your life, but I learned so much when I'm right there on the front lines. Wow, it'd be better if I had an on-off switch, or if this was green instead of red, or like I just get a lot of insights from people. My innovation team hates when I go into their room because they're like, oh no, this guy again, you bring us 1,000 ideas. I think you're on mute, Eric.
Yeah, sorry about that, Jay.
That's okay. I'm going to do that probably twice while we're doing this anyway.
Yeah, what a rookie mistake, right? That's a good comprehensive, I guess, summary of the last 19 months. I mean, there's a lot going on, especially in your world. And, some things that I want to unpack too is like the beauty. I mean, it was really that beauty category. It seemed to, at least the articles that I saw coming out, it seemed to be really well received. Like, I'm curious, like, how did it start with someone like DeAndre Hopkins, and then how did it get into like a an actual beauty category? Which is, I've never worked in that category of business, but it sounds hyper competitive. There's a lot of money going around in that sector. So, yeah, give
Yeah.
me some insights. How to get from that to where you are now, and then how do you feel about how it was received initially?
Yeah. Well, I think you have to kind of look at the way that I have navigated my life for the last 20 years. And just like I was sharing with you, those people that we met at Idea World, those two women, DeAndre Hopkins, Paul George, I could go down the list of athletes, there's a lot in the UK, all the way up to Ronaldo. I have conversations with those guys about products. And when I was working with Maria Sharapova to get a woman's perspective and DeAndre to get a male perspective, because we weren't thinking about it as beauty. We were thinking more as like self-care, facial health, wellness, and that type of thing. So DeAndre gets it, loves the blue light that's on there, and he loves the lift. He's sort of into fashion, and he's a good-looking guy. He's successful, and so I learned a lot from DeAndre. And there still are a lot of men that want to buy the TheraFace Pro. So I think the dovetail or the transition from DeAndre into beauty, and the reason I bring him up is he's on the cover of GQ magazine. He's in fashion, and that's sort of inherent in that space for people to pay attention to their crow's feet or their neck. Or for DeAndre, he was super excited about the blue light to be able to deal with the bacteria that he gets from putting on his helmet, having all the sweat and all the things that he has. So that to him was like, oh my God, that's great. And then also to use the percussive modality on the TheraFace Pro on his head and his forehead from having that helmet strapped on super tight. So that to you and I makes a lot of sense. Oh yeah, I bet that's great. Feels really good to him. But then you transition into, Carly Kloss or Maria Sharapova, they immediately see that through a beauty lens. Like, oh my God, this is going to help with my nighttime routine, my morning routine, my makeup routine. Carly she has a TheraFace Pro with her all the time, and she has her own, and her makeup artist has hers, and they use them differently in a little bit different way depending on what they're trying to get out of it. So the transition was inadvertent. It was kind of like, oh shoot, here we are. We had to kind of figure it out, but our messaging didn't change. It was really about facial health, taking care of your face, and you know this concept, it sort of, I hope, lingers around our brand, is that it's this idea of consistency. There's these, what do they call them, vampire facials and all these different facials you can get. And that's a once every 6 months, maybe once a quarter thing. And it's kind of expensive. But what are you doing in between those visits? And our goal at Therabody has always been, let me give you the tools to help bridge that gap between facials or, whatever you're doing, or your physical therapy or your massage therapy. So suddenly now we found ourselves in this space where their messaging that was about facial health and not beauty. And then we found ourselves talking to Sephora and Ultra and all these different companies that are in that space. And we recognize, wow, that's a different language. Like we have to kind of adapt to that language. And then we recognized there was a big opportunity there, like I said a second ago, with a lot of our science that we're innovating on. And then suddenly now we're in beauty. I wouldn't consider myself a beauty guy, but I'm having some amazing conversations with great people. Some of the people I just named, and I don't like name dropping, but I do with specific people because it shows the firepower that these products have, with the effect it has with people like Carly and Maria. So that's how it happened, and we're super excited. I mean, the TheraFace Pro, Eric, to give you an idea, is our second best seller next to
Wow.
Theragun. That was an eye opener. Like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, where's this happening? We had 20 million views on TikTok, several purchases, affiliate codes. It just was blowing up. So we just, obviously, when you have something like that, you got to turn your attention to that. Be like, okay, what's happening in that space? And what can we bring to that space that has value, that has a purpose, that's not just a product? And that's what led to the mask. And some of the people might be nerdy about this, so I'll speak to them. LEDs, which is light emitting diodes, those can be changed a lot nowadays. And just 3 years ago you couldn't do that, but you can now get a little diode, and you can run 8 different frequencies out of that, and you can put it on a gun, a Theragun, where just 2 years ago you could run 4 and you couldn't bend it. So there's a lot that's happened in that space, and with our engineers and our innovation team, we're constantly looking at is it right for us to step into those spaces? So beauty, I feel like we're just scratching the surface. I think there's a lot there, and it's a big world.
Yeah. I mean, there's, aesthetics, beauty, however you want to call it, certainly is finding its place in like the greater wellness economy, especially like in longevity. That's obviously a big trend right now. Everyone seems to, want to live longer. It's kind of weird, right? But I want to get into, we are going to get into, I think it was the F series. Is that how you talked about the new line of products?
Yeah.
Before we do that, I want to, I'm really excited for that. I want to talk about the reset centers. You had mentioned that. I've kind of seen some stuff about it online, but what's the goal with the brick and mortar model? Like, what are you guys hoping to get? And what is that experience like that you're designing for the consumer?
Yeah, great question. In 2018, especially 2018, and then obviously several years building up to that, I've had the opportunity, probably like you and many other people, to find myself in some of the best training centers and training facilities in the world, from Dubai to Man City to the Patriots. I mean, you think about Jacksonville Jaguars has an amazing facility. They spent a bunch of money on recovery. So I've had an opportunity to go into these places. And one of the things that stood out to me from the lens of Therabody, which is how can we democratize these solutions for people to use on themselves on a consistent basis. I walked in and I'm like, wait a minute. You don't need to be a licensed physician to use these. You don't have to be licensed to do red light or cryotherapy or hot cold plunges. And I'm like, but it's perceived that way because it's behind these doors, metaphorically and literally, before you can really get to these things. And so came back as a team, we started talking about that. What would that look like? What if we built something that was a community recovery center where people could go and get these treatments, not necessarily an hour-long massage, but they could get in IVs, they could have some of our therapies, our sound therapy technology, red light therapy. What does that look like? So we built the first experiential Therabody store in Century City here in Los Angeles. And it was booming. Like suddenly now we had what was kind of cool, Eric, because I don't know if I ever told you this, but it was a little kiosk. I mean, it's like 700 square feet. It's tiny. And in the back of the thing, we had a massage table, and I trained all of the people that worked there to do a double gun sweep. It's a technique that we use to kind of loosen the body, and it's amazing. It feels amazing. So we had that being booked on a 15-minute increments, and it was packed for like 7 days. So you couldn't book for like 6 or 7 days out. And then the front of the store was our retail location, and it was popping. Like there was so much happening there. So we were like, wait a minute, we got to do more of these. But we recognized we needed to split them out. So we have about 20 or so retail stores that are just Therabody retail stores. The goal with that is we want people to experience these. When I'm on Instagram or other people on Instagram and they're like, oh my God, this is the best thing in the world. And whatever you say, I want to be able to give people the ability to go somewhere and try it out themselves. So that's really why we created the Therabody stores, is to experience the product. The reset locations is a full recovery center. And the goal with that is that you can consistently treat your body for recovery. So if you're working out as much as a lot of people are, a Barry's Bootcamp membership is around $400 a month. And you get a discount. So we're thinking, well, let's just build a membership type of model where people can pay $200 a month and they can have unlimited cryo, unlimited Theragun treatments, unlimited red light, and they can pop in whenever they need to. That's really the goal. We want people to take care of their bodies, and that's not a weekend thing. Like, that's an everyday thing. Now, we realize that not a lot of us that have responsible lives have time to pop into a reset every day, but we're open crazy hours from 7 in the morning till 8 at night. So we want to be able to capture those people that have time in the mornings and the afternoons. So the goal really is to have that be where people experience our brand at its very most. They experience the people. We spend a lot of time picking the right people, certifying them in certain modalities. We want them to experience what it feels like to be treated, have our sound therapy chair, our power dot, our mask. You go into reset and you can experience all of that. So that's the goal. And it's one of the stepping stones that we've used as a brand to get our name out there. You look at a lot of the copycats on Amazon and on ecom and stuff. They're just riding our coattails. They're putting something out there with a price point, hoping that people will bite on that. And we know that we're different, but we want people to see why we're different and to experience at a retail store. I get pictures all the time from Vegas. Dude, I didn't know you had a store in Vegas. And then, people popping in and out of our reset locations. I got a call this morning from an NFL player. It was like, hey, can I run into reset? I just have a few hours. I'm like, yeah. The Kings, the NHL team, they work out of and practice out of El Segundo here in California, and our Manhattan Beach location is literally less than 10 minutes away. And those guys are in there when they're in town. They're packed. They're in reset all the time. So we just want to bring wellness to the communities. That's really what it is. And wellness isn't about getting cryo or hyperbaric chambers once a week. We want to make it available to them as often as possible. So that's our goal. And obviously we want people that the aesthetics are important. The smell is important. The experience when they go in is important. So we've tried to think of everything. We have a great team that puts that together.
And what is the, for the reset center specifically, aside from the retail, what's the vision for that? Like, are you seeing like a vast rollout across the country? Or like, how many do you think you want? Or is that something that?
Well, the Therabody stores, we have that model, that business model. You're never perfect with those things, but we have it pretty tight. We kind of understand what that is. Square footage, location, whether it's in a mall, has to be strategically placed in certain areas near a gym. So we kind of have that down. The reset's a little different. It's much more expensive to kick one of those off. You're talking $3-4 million to get one of those set up completely, and that's a big expense. So to answer your question, I think we will probably have half a dozen more of our retail locations, and that they could be in London. We're looking in London. We're looking in different cities in Europe. And then the reset, we got to get this one in New York kicked off and open. It's going to be open by the middle of October. And we have the business model of that kind of set up, but the economy, to be fair, Eric's a little tough. So people spending an extra $200-300 a month on, these ancillary treatments, unfortunately, it's the easiest thing to justify you don't need, so we have to sort of be careful about that. So the goal is to grow the Therabody stores. They do well. And the reset, we're kind of letting things catch up with us a little bit. We've got certain locations we're looking at. Love to have one in the UK. Love to have one. There's certain areas of the world that just makes a lot of sense. But we're also working with some big name hospitality locations to have these inside of their locations for their patrons that are staying. So there's some conversations going on there. Nothing's to announce.
Yeah, it's I love the wellness recovery center models. I'm just waiting for somebody to open one in my area. All over it. I've thought about it a couple times. I'm like, hey, I'll go to my wife, like, hey, what do you think about opening like XYZ franchise model or something? She's like, do you remember being a gym owner? Do you remember those days? That's right.
How easy do you forget, right?
Yeah, let's get into the we'll just call it an unveiling of the new products. I'm really excited
Yeah.
to see them, and for people too, like we do have a YouTube channel, so if you want to see the video of this, you can click over there as well. But yeah, tell me about what's the any major initiatives with the new F series?
Yeah.
What's the goal here?
Yeah, there was. So, if you kind of think about our story, we started earlier with one Theragun, and then you couple that with my goal of having a Theragun in every house. As we've grown as a brand, we have a lot more products. So it's easier to say a Therabody product in every household. But when you start looking at the Theraguns, we've learned over the last 10 years with our science and innovation that specific specs on the Theragun can be changed based off of the tissue of the person that's being treated, and they will get the same effect. So, for example, amplitude is one of our big three. So we have amplitude, frequency, and torque. And amplitude is 16 millimeters. That's the distance it travels in one revolution. The frequency is 40 hertz. That's the ideal frequency. It's 2400 RPM. And then our torque, which is the power that you need to be able to get in deep on a tissue. My mom doesn't need 16 millimeters of amplitude or 80 pounds of torque. Like she's not doing that to herself. So we've stepped back and taken a look at those numbers, and we've done a lot of research. I mentioned to you consumer insights. We've done a lot of sitting behind the mirror and watching how people respond to products. And then we also had our science team doing studies and research. And so we found that in order for us to get into every household in the world, there's a price point and a little bit of the science that we had to tweak. So we started out with this, which is what we're calling relief. And it's basically general relief for everybody. And I know that you and many other people have heard how loud some of our earlier Theraguns were.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn this on.
Oh, it's dead quiet.
Can't even hear it. I mean, it's so quiet. And we did the same thing we did with our Mini. It's just a simple push the button, and you get 3 different speeds. So this is the high speed. Listen to this.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it's just basic, super basic. It has the attachments that pop on and off that are compliant, that work with our other attachments, so you don't have to buy 30 new attachments. It has our patented triangle that balances, and I like to do this so people recognize that's a really important feature of our products, because you're just being able to let them float on your body. And now my mom can use these different handles to different parts of her body. This is going to be $149.
Wow,
so you think of the demographic and the price point that this is perfect for. So that's the relief. Simple and easy. We have 2 colors. We have the blue, then we have a tan. And for those who might be thinking about the business model of this, we gave the 1 color to Walmart and 1 color to Target of the relief. And they bought them all. So we don't have any more inventory of this for the holidays.
Wow, man, congrats.
Crazy. They're like, we want those. Then we realized that we wanted to give people that enjoy our products with more features. We wanted to take a step up. So we called this F5. That was our special code, but it's now the relief.
Okay.
And now we have this, which we call Sense. And the reason we call it Sense is if I tilt this way, you can kind of see up in here, there is a biometric sensor. So when you rest your left index finger on that sensor, it will read your heart rate. If your heart rate's high, I'm going to see if I can turn it on and do it right now. So I'm going to double tap. Yeah. Can you see how that heart just came on?
Yeah.
So now it's vibrating in my hand based off of a heart rate. So if I rest my hand on there, you want to share the load. If anyone's taken your pulse in the hospital, it's that little clip that clips on your finger. It's really soft. So I'm going to hold this against with my left index finger, and it's taking my heart rate now. I don't want to waste a bunch of time. If my heart rate's high, it's automatically going to kick into a breathing exercise. So it would go a box breathing, 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out, 4 seconds in. The reason
Through
we
the
put
app.
it's and on
Okay.
here, you'll see it on here as well. And
Okay.
you'll get the hepatics. So it'll vibrate. So bzz, bzz, bzz. So you're following the breath work. The reason we did this is our heart doesn't lie. Now, you and I could be standing in front of 1,000 people and grab the microphone and we act like nothing's wrong with us and we're super calm. But inside, our heart might be pounding out of our chest.
Oh, completely.
The same thing happens with athletes. The same things happens with my patients. So a patient comes in, they sit down, they dealt with traffic, they're stressed about their family or finances or relationship, whatever, and they're running at a little bit higher pulse rate. So they're 70 beats a minute, 75 beats a minute, and that over time isn't good for the body. I need to recognize that, because if their heart rate is high, no matter what I do, no matter how amazing our treatments are, I'm not really going to get the best effect, it's not going to be super effective because the heart rate's high. They're not in a parasympathetic state. They're in a sympathetic state. So that's basically why we wanted to do this. It also has an amazing screen. So you can see it's got these preset protocols. Let me go on here. There we go. So I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see.
Yeah,
Tension relief. You can scroll down and it gives you a bunch of different topics. Now, the cool thing about this, Eric, is you can connect this to our app and you can change those settings. So if I was going to go on a trip, or I was going to the gym, or I was going to a track and I didn't want to have my phone with me, I can download those protocols to this device. And now this will run autonomously from the app, but you have all the same features in here. So this is the Sense.
So essentially the first one, the Relief, you've simplified it down, made it more accessible, right, at the price point.
Yeah.
And this one you beefed it up, like more tech.
Tech.
And is that more for the practitioner, you think, or is that more for the consumer user?
That's a really good question. It's actually for the weekend warrior, people that are a little bit more sophisticated with their recovery, understanding how important breathing is. You know, there's a lot of research now that says breathing is actually more effective than meditation, but you need to understand what that is and how to do it, breathing in through your nose and in your abdomen. But yes, this is for, I would say, the weekend warrior, a little bit more sophisticated buyer, some of the people that want a really good product, but they don't need the best. And this connects to the app. So it gives you everything. And again, they're all compatible with our attachments. So you don't have to change those. And then last, but definitely not least, is our Pro Plus.
Ooh.
And I call this thing the Mac Daddy for a lot of reasons. So if I turn it on, I think the first thing you'll notice is red light.
Oh yeah, it's got some red lights on it.
So we've got red light down here. And like I was telling you a little bit earlier, the power that this is putting out, that these red lights are putting out, is different and stronger than the power of the mask. The mask is right next to your face, so we don't have to put out as many milliwatts per centimeter squared. This has to have between up to 600 milliwatts per centimeter squared, so it can penetrate deeper into the tissue. Now, one of the things that's kind of cool about this, Eric, is what you see is red light, but what you don't see is the infrared light. So if we put on an infrared camera, you would see this is spreading out in a really broad pattern. And that's the infrared, which goes much deeper into the body. Now I can turn this off. Maybe. But the cool thing about it is this attachment is actually getting hot. So now I have red light with a heat attachment. I'm going to stop it really quick. I'm going to open this up so you can see. If you look inside of there, that's a much different component than what we were doing with our first original Theraguns.
Yeah, it looks like a cigarette lighter from back in the day.
They communicate. So now the Theragun recognizes which attachment is in here. Do you know why? Because we have several more attachments. So you see the hot one up there in the corner. We have a cold attachment and a vibration attachment. So as I'm putting these in, I want to put the vibration attachment in. This is amazing. Barely even hear that. This is amazing for joints. So I have a shoulder issue, and you and I were talking about that. My AC joint is super sensitive, so you can see those diodes, how they're getting more and more convergent the closer I put that to my body, or are they getting further away? But I have that right on my AC joint, and it feels amazing. So it's generating heat. That's what vibration's for. We've said before in the past that Theragun is not really good for joints, but now it is. This is great for replacements, sore knees, that type of thing. And you can, I don't know if you can kind of see the texture on there. It's ribbed, so it has a good grip, so it doesn't slip off the joint. And then another thing that's super helpful is having a cold attachment. Now, what you're going to notice is this does not have amplitude or frequency. It's solid, because when you're using ice, you don't need you can't use the percussive therapy. The percussive is going to create heat, which now nullifies the ice. But if you think of a protocol like tennis elbow, I would use one of our first attachments, the most recent ones we come out with, which is called micropoint, and that creates pain modulation. So now I'm working on my elbow, and it's creating a stimulus on my tissue of my skin that's actually helping with the pain cycle in my brain. Then the next thing I would do is probably work with the vibrating attachment, get right on that joint, right on the elbow, and just work that area. And then I take it off, throw on the heat attachment. Now I'm going to work the muscles that attach there. And I'm heating that up, and I'm really getting some blood flow. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to throw on the ice and put the ice right on that area to shut down the blood flow, decrease the swelling. So you think about all the different things that are available in this. Super cool. The screen, again, has all these different modalities. Let's see if I can do this. You can scroll through on these, and you can upload the same things from the app. So once you're in the program, you can scroll through sleep, back pain, low back, warm up. So you can see all the different protocols. We've got 15 of these in the app. So you can just scroll through, save new ones, whatever you want. And then this also has the heart rate biometric sensor. It just picked up because I tapped it twice.
There's a lot of technology packed in that thing.
Yeah, and, I was telling our engineers, I don't know if we can get better than this. I don't know if we can do better than this. This has everything.
Yeah. And, for those who may not know too much about it, because I know, very surface layer, but what are the benefits of red light? I mean, it seems to be, it's comes up quite a bit. It probably started, like many things, kind of in the biohacker space, and seems to be moving out towards like the Gen Pop area. But if you could summarize, like, what are some of the benefits of that?
Yeah, red light, I like to say, is like a warm hug to your skin. It's just a warm hug. It generates blood flow. It stimulates collagen. And for those of you who need to understand, collagen is that the chemical in our body, or the element in our body that creates elasticity. As we age, we lose the collagen in our body, and that's why you see the wrinkles in your face or different areas, because it's not snapping back. So you want to increase collagen. It's important for people to recognize too, though, that you have like a maximum dosage, and it happens in a short period of time. So if I put red light on my crow's feet on my eyes, if I left it on for 12 hours, it's not going to get any better than if I did it for 5 minutes. People just need to understand that, the wavelengths and stuff like that. So red light's really good for surface appearance and blood flow that gets to the skin. Infrared light goes deeper. So I like to tell people that's like your personal day spa for your body. Like you're actually generating heat at an outside layer, because infrared uses red light to penetrate, but then it gets into infrared light, and now you're working on the healing properties of the muscle and the tissues. And you can't do that with other products. We also have blue light that's not on this. We have a blue light on some of our products that deals with bacteria. So I was mentioning DeAndre Hopkins. Mm-hmm. It's really important for him to deal with his bacteria, the buildup that they have, because they're not replacing their chin strap every day. So red light that you saw on here is great for the outside surface. It warms the area. It feels really good. But it's about surface level, pun intended. and then you throw in the infrared, now you get deeper than that. Now, if I'm working on my shoulder, I want infrared on my shoulder while I'm doing the vibration, because I'm going to work on the healing properties of that joint with the infrared light.
Awesome. So you have the relief, right? That's kind of the like we stated, I think I said it, the most accessible price point, right?
Yeah.
And then how does the MSRP increase with those other two?
So
Increasing?
149.
Okay.
299.
Okay.
So it's not crazy, right?
Nope.
And you know what? This is $599.
The Mac Daddy.
The Mac Daddy. Our business model, and we talk about this a lot here, we don't want to increase the price of the top tier product in the market. It's not fair to our consumers, and that's not our business model. So when you buy this comes separate. 2 reasons. This included puts us over $599. And the second is we have a cube that I mentioned to you that gets hot and cold. And sometimes the regular consumer doesn't need this, but they could use a cube. A lot of people have arthritis, old injuries, and some people don't realize that heat is the very best thing for old injuries, not ice. So to be able to have a cube that has both of them is actually a lot more practical for people. So that was sort of our thought process when we were designing the pricing and what attachments come with the Pro Plus.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, congratulations. That's going to be, I think it's going to be very well received. And it's, I think people who are really enthusiastic about, the recovery technologies, like they're always, I'd imagine there's kind of like an iPhone aspect, right? Like there's going to be the people waiting outside the store to get the newest one, the nerds within the practitioner world. Yeah. I mean, tell me about that. Do you have those, I'm sure you do, like the absolute screaming fans that will just can't wait to get their hands on this stuff?
Yeah. And it's surprising to me. I mean, I like to think in my little brain that the ones that are super enthusiastic are the ones that I communicate with, like Kelly Starrett and like people like that are like, oh my God, I have to have that. But there's like dozens of people that are like that I don't have relationships with. So that's the part that's sort of crazy to me. I did a webinar yesterday. No, what is today? Monday, for a bunch of physical therapists and chiropractors. And I sort of previewed this. I'm like, hey, this isn't out yet, but I wanted to show you guys, give you a sneak peek. I got hit up by so many people. When is it coming out? I'm going to save up. I want to make sure I love it because it's sort of confirmation of the wave we've created. But it's funny. I see people, you just got me thinking about this, but I was checking into a flight, in Toronto, and the woman that was checking me in, I had my, that's how I dress all the time, not just for TV. And I was standing there at the gate and she looks up and goes, I know you. I was like, really? And she goes, oh my God, I love your products. And then she started bragging about how many she had. I have the first one and the second one. My boyfriend has the third one. And I'm just like, whoa. So it still takes me back. It really does. It's sort of overwhelming, to be honest.
Yeah. When did you start the company? What was the?
I started doing this in 2007. So I created my first Theragun in 2007. I was on my own until 2015. And then I met Ben, who was my business partner, CEO. Now he's the chief strategy officer. We launched Therabody or Theragun as a company, e-com, in 2016. So I think that's like when people started recognizing us. But I've been working with teams and athletes for 8, almost 9 years before we launched as a company. But I had the company, it was actually called Theraguns with a Z. I have people send me photos of that sometimes, but I love to tell people, like, we've been out since 2008, been learning, understanding, figuring out products. This is my 15th Theragun that I've been involved with. You think about how much you learn over the years of creating different products. So 2007, 2008 was when the company started. And then 2016, we went e-com, we went live. different packaging. And then we started creating different products.
I want to get your insights on, and this is probably more than just a few minute answer, but when you look at the wellness economy and that industry, I mean, it's ambiguous, the term wellness, right? It can be so many different things.
Yeah.
But going through post pandemic and the effects that it had on maybe consumer health or whatever effects it may have had on wellness, how do you see that industry now in a post pandemic world? Like, what do you think has changed? I would presume you're still very bullish on wellness and health as an industry. Yeah, give us some insights at a high level. How do you see it now?
Uh, from my perspective, people, I've heard this a lot, but COVID brought people's wellness to the surface. And since COVID, people have become more educated and sophisticated about what things they want in their life to be well. The biometric world has blown up, being able to track and find out if you really are healthy. I think that was one of the fears everyone had, is like, oh shit, am I going to get COVID because I'm not healthy? And how do you know you're not healthy? How do you know you're susceptible to these types of things? You don't really know. But now, since then, we have tools that are available to us to monitor those things a little bit better. Meditation is a way bigger thing now than it was before COVID. I mean, I've been a meditator for a long time, and I've had several conversations pre and post, and it's a totally different thing now. People are recognizing that. There's podcasts that talk about how important breathing is. I think what happened is COVID was a wake-up call, and it's shifted the way we view wellness. And before, it was eating right and going for a walk every day, but now we're recognizing it's really about the mind-body connection. It's about having the heart and the mind coherent together, and that's a personal journey. That's not something you can go to a place and get. You have to do that yourself. So I think what's happening now, if you look at the very tip of the spear for wellness, it's people being able to go inward, connect with themselves. I think with AI and a lot of those things that are coming out in the world, how we feel about things, literally what our sensations are about particular things, are eventually going to be our guide. There was something the other day on TV where I was like, wait a minute, is that AI? I got an email that I could tell was done by AI just by the way it was sort of framed. It's going to take a while for us to adapt to that. And I think wellness is understanding your heart and mind, the health part of it, how they're connected, what you stress about, what you don't stress about, how to deal with stress, how to deal with relationships, how to love. And that's what's really going to lead us to a healthier community, with all of this other outside, these distractions happening. So I think with biometrics, light therapy, I think women are going to be a bigger player in every industry. I think just listening to them and following their needs. I think those are probably the things that stand out to me. And we're innovating on all of those things. We're constantly innovating in every one of those aspects. So, it's still scary. I was at an event last night that was tentatively going to get canceled because the feature speaker was diagnosed with COVID, so he couldn't come. And, I'm like, what? Aren't we past this yet?
All right.
But that's kind of how I see it. There's still a lot of people out there that don't have time or money in their mind for wellness. And I think if we start paying attention to the way we breathe and how much time we spend meditating and connecting our mind and our heart, you'll realize that's free. Like, you don't have to pay for that.
Yeah, I agree. Wellness is a personal journey. Like, you can't outsource that, right? It's got to be done.
No.
It's got to be done. And it's an inside job. I think it's really kind of a good point to wrap it up, because I know you also probably have to go, but When does the F series come out? Remind us again. What's the date on that?
October 3rd.
Cool.
Yeah.
And as an industry, Dr. Jason, how can we help you? What do you need right now?
Testimonials. Honestly, I think if you asked me what I could have, I would get testimonials. A story from you, your wife, your son, daughter, family member, mother, sharing what is making their life better is so much more powerful than an Instagram post that I make. So I think people out there that are using our products, if you want to DM me, send me something on Instagram. That's honestly the most powerful thing for me, is getting testimonials, because it talks to people in their language. It talks to people at their level, and it really resonates. If I'm talking to people about migraines, but I don't get migraines, I can't really speak that language. So I think, to answer your question, I would love testimonials. The more, the merrier.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Jason, it's been an absolute pleasure. I love catching up with you.
Likewise.
You have a very cool demeanor to you, which I appreciate. But yeah, I thank you for coming and joining us. Congratulations on all success. The beauty stuff at Theraface. I mean, that sounds like a winner, in this F series, I have no doubt will be very well received. So keep up the great work. And ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jason Wersland.
Thanks, Eric. And thanks for doing this. Again, like I talked about testimonials, your platform, your viewers and listeners, we may not have access to them. And so I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Give me a platform. Let me run my mouth for a little bit. Hopefully it attracts people to our brand a little bit. So I thank you for doing this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Yeah, really appreciate it.